morning, I'm Miranda Wilson.
Adrian Martinez.
I'm Peter Castillo, and I'll follow your sentence.
I'm going to be discussing ethics of space exploration.
You know, this whole situation sort of reminds us of the futuristic sci-fi franchise of Avatar, where they search for other planets and find one, Pandora, and eventually end up exploiting its resources for human benefit. And sure enough, they devastate the environment and unethically commercialize its resources. And sure, this is a science fiction movie, but we still see a glimpse into our future. And it is unfortunately not bright.
The research question that was provided to us was that is it ethical to risk contaminating other planets in pursuit of human exploration of space? As a team, we believe that it is unethical to risk contaminating other planets in pursuit of human exploration of space, as political and economic conflicts that could arise when organizing said space exploration is not worth the harm that will come to other planets.
Even before we reach these other supposed planets, simply figuring out who will pay for all of this poses enough conflict as is. Simply put, possible economic models to pay can be split into public and private. Public meaning when projects are funded by the government and their taxpayers, or private, when projects are conversely funded by private companies and their investors. And unfortunately, both models, though very different, pose various issues. Though public models served well during the Apollo missions, also known as the missions that got us to the moon and won us a space race against the Soviets, after that, we unfortunately had no proper motive after that. And this lack of motivation led to many failures, such as the 1981 Columbia Space Shuttle, which exceeded costs by a lot, specifically 220 billion modern US dollars, and flew less than half of its scheduled missions. And this even led to deadly accidents, such as the 1986 Challenger explosion and the 2003 Columbia Shuttle explosion. And all of this eventually led to the shuttle program being shut down altogether in 2011. In 2018, economist Matthew Weinzwerl tied all of these failures back to the public model, which he said posed, quote, weak incentives for the efficient allocation of resources. And he even points out how NASA's budget was often subject to, quote, dramatic revision by policymakers. Though a public model has various issues, is a private model the solution? Not exactly. Plenty of middle-class Americans invest in stocks today. However, last month, economic writer Mark Guberti of the US News wrote, the strong spikes of 2021 are distant memories, as shares are down by 45.2% year to date. And people can do with their money as they please. However, is it ethical to allow them to invest in such unpromising and fragile ventures? We say no.
And now I'm going to talk to you about the political side of space exploration. Number one being international disagreements. According to Hugo Ferreira, in outer space exploration and sustainability of the space environment, not all countries agree on how ethical rules are being applied to space exploration. Which creates disagreements in space exploration, which makes political negotiation essential. Without political cooperation, the protections of contamination aren't being enforced, which makes the risk only increase. My next point is political pressure. Similar to this, Mark Mosier in Politics of Space Exploration explains that governments often face pressure to prioritize rapid exploration and economic gains over careful, ethical space exploration. This means that leaders of the government sometimes overlook safety just to move faster or to gain an advantage. Without that stronger oversight, missions can cause serious harm to other planets or destroy ecosystems. And both of these cases show that politics is the deciding factor, and without that responsible leadership, the ethical protections can be ignored, making exploration riskier than it should be.
Now going over environmental effects. One of the biggest threats of human space exploration comes from commercial space mining. As Earth's resources decline, companies have turned over to asteroids and other space bodies for new sources of minerals. Although this may seem promising for industrial and economic growth, it has serious risks of exploitation, contamination, and destruction of space environments. History has also displayed the dangers of experimentation in space, as it can once again cause contamination, pollution, and result in unintended consequences. For example, in 1961, Project Westford was developed at MIT's Lincoln Lab Laboratory. This project involves U.S. researchers creating an artificial ionosphere by releasing millions of copper needles into medium Earth orbit. This experiment unintentionally polluted Earth's orbit, contaminated space, and left behind dangerous debris. In this image, this image here was the needle dispenser, and then this can show the pollution that was caused from the needles that were released into space. There are also no clear enforced guidelines for the protection and preservation of space environments. As space exploration has rapidly increased, the policies behind it have not evolved at the same rate and have still not addressed environmental and ethical concerns. There are documents such as the Outer Space Treaty of 1967 that have attempted to regulate human activity in space, but there are still significant gaps when it comes to the protection of space environments. The Outer Space Treaty describes space as the province of all mankind, but researcher and humanist Victoria Michael states that it lacks ethical enforcement to prevent monopolization and environmental harm. Without specific rules for issues such as space mining, and microbial contamination, there are still the same threats of exploitation, contamination, and permanent damage to the environment. Therefore, there must be a clear priority on responsible space exploration to avoid irreversible damage to the fragile space environments.
When we frequently explore space, we increase the risk for potential contamination to other planets. This is due to the heavy machinery and systems we utilize while we explore space. According to Dr. Ruslan Belikov from the NASA Ames Research Center, current chronographic systems fail to suppress the cross-contamination between starlight between stars. Eliminating this cross-contamination is a key challenge that must be addressed. So not only are these systems causing problems for space, they are also causing problems for human exploration itself. The machines we use constantly disrupt other life's habitats and ecosystems. This disruption leads to an increase of the killing of microbes. According to David Grinspoon, a senior scientist for astrobiology strategy at NASA headquarters, there's always a slight possibility that simply driving through a landscape or conducting experiments can cause some type of disruption in a planet's ecosystem. This leads to the microbes being more prone to being contaminated and having their existence eliminated. Thank you.